It was my first term at university. Now, I could have rather sensibly dived in headfirst into building new friendships and seeking out new experiences, but my path was a different one. Zero hedonism for this reluctant wallflower. In truth, I felt lonely, scared and confused. Why was I here? Where had all my confidence gone? And would I ever get it back? All of my frailties and vulnerabilities were laid bare and exposed. I wasn't entirely sure I'd be able to get through the following 3 years of degree. So I got my head down, I studied, I coped, and I urged time to tick away a little quicker than it seemed to be. I did my best. Eventually, I was fed up of the self-pitiful sentiment reverberating round my box room in North London, so I dragged myself kicking and screaming out of my comfort zone and explored, walking for miles and miles, taking in my new surroundings. And it's those moments that remain my favourite snapshots of that time and my most treasured ones. I can't recommend wandering the highways and byways of Holloway and Kentish Town at night to anyone else. In fact, please avoid that and have a little more common sense. But for me, it ushered in something new. Eventually, after a bit of refinement, I discovered I had a new outlet. Post-lectures, I'd lug my CD Walkman, look it up kids, and a slew of CDs with me to Primrose Hill Park in London and wander around slowly as twilight fell. And as I did, I absorbed my favourite music through each and every pore, and I felt different. Day to day, the world around me seemed rigid and intimidating. My feelings were twisted and contorted around deep-rooted trauma and lagging behind a need to get on and get through. But those seemingly aimless moments on my own, with something I felt passionate and emotionally connected to, gave me an insight into what life could be. My future wasn't any clearer as I took it all in. There was no light bulb moment, and reality remained as stoutly immutable as before. But it opened my mind ajar. I began to sense that the universe had more to offer me beyond this present experience, and it offered me the chance to embrace what was in store for me. I could feel, and I had hope.
Welcome to the Odd Ones Out podcast. If you ever feel like you're on the outside looking in, you are not alone. Let's challenge our limiting beliefs and embrace who we truly are. Brown paper packages tied up with string. These are a few of my favourite things. It's just what comes to mind when you talk about what makes you happy, what makes you get the most out of life. I always think of that song.
What's going on? Get me out of this.
You find that film really depressing, but actually...
That's because it is.
No, I love all of the songs from The Sound of Music. And if you were to ask me, oh yeah, okay, let's chat about things that, I don't know, bring joy, make us feel happy, get through the day. I have that. Not that I have my equivalent. I couldn't care less about schnitzel with noodles. I don't know where I'm going with this. Hi, everyone.
Hi. What a way to start.
Welcome to the Odd Ones Out podcast.
In case you hadn't realised, there was no take two.
Nope. I'm Beck.
I'm Maz.
And you are listening to us talking a whole load of shit. I'm sorry. And you are listening to us today on this episode. Hey, if we're going to be talking about joy, we might as well have a giggle on the way. No?
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah, go on then.
Cool. So, we've done a lot of episodes that are quite, not heavy, or maybe they are heavy. They go deep. I think someone said to me, oh, I really like it. It does go a bit deep. Which is like, okay, cool, fine. You know, we're not here to...
We're very deep individuals, man.
Yeah. But... in kind of counterbalance of that, when we're trying to work through all these different things to get to our full potential, we can't forget the fact that we have a life to live today.
Yeah.
And we want to get the most out of today as possible. Now, I could wake up in the morning And unless some days I go for my run or I take some time out just to be on my own, I might find that day a bit difficult. I don't suffer from depression, low mood sometimes, because I allow the difficulties and the struggles I have in life to get on top of me. They will take precedence. Listen to the negativity episode if you haven't already. But they can take precedence. Yeah. So actually, feeling cheerful, feeling happy, focusing on the positive things can be an effort for me. It can, because I'm too focused on the weighty stuff. But why don't we, Maz's suggestion, not mine, and I like it, have an episode focused on the things that help us get more out of life?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Getting more out of life, not necessarily being happy or kind of cultivating joy or they're all worthy things to aim for, but they also bring their own pressures. And
also, what does it mean?
Well, it is. It's a bit sort of esoteric and a bit kind of nebulous at the best of times. It's not a specific thing that people can aim for. I think to me, it's getting more out of life, but it's also really focusing on things that you can engage with. And for me, that's a really big thing that I try to focus on is engagement. Yeah, being able to engage with things that make you feel more you. You know, and that for me, that's the standard I sort of try to live by. You know, it doesn't matter what makes someone else happy or what loads of other people do to bring joy into their lives. If it doesn't work for me, what's the point in chasing it? I need to find things that I engage with that, you know, trip those switches in my mind that make me feel more sort of vital, more alive, however you want to put it.
It's a really good point, because I sincerely mean that. What does being happy mean? It's so banded around, and I'm not saying I've never felt it. I know I've felt happy, but to actually put it as an objective, a tangible objective, for me just seems quite random. I wouldn't know how to qualify it. Well,
because when people talk about being happy, it's almost as if that should be the sum total of your emotions. You know, your life should be a happy one. It sort of implies that you're not really allowed to have downtimes. You know, you're not allowed to have ebbs and flows. It's all got to be happy 24/7, and you've got to feel it no matter what. And that's just not realistic. That's not what everyday life is like.
So therefore, if happy, because lots of things come to mind with that, the amount of films and books that I've read which talk about trying to achieve a utopia to some degree, and people just can't accept it if everything is really positive all the time. Human nature is that we can't accept it and things just fall apart, because we need some level of grit and some level of difficulty. And my best friend John, I'm going to quote him wrong, but it's a quote that he's said to me plenty of times in the past, something like, it's the imperfect on the perfect that gives life its beauty. That having that challenge there, that difficulty there, that negative thing there, does actually help us to appreciate more, or for it to actually just have a more colourful side, whatever it is. I'm probably bastardising that quote completely, but I get the whole balance thing. There's no point just aiming for happy, because that it doesn't really mean much, and actually there will be difficulties along the way. And I love this isn't going to be a word, a tangibility of engagement. Is it a word?
Tangible.
I don't know. I'm obviously having a real difficulty with my vocabulary and memory today. But I have to admit, the times where I look back and say, I felt happy, or I had a really happy day today, a lot of the time it comes from me being influenced by someone else's happiness or enjoyment in something. So, for example, I might come in from work and I might be concentrating on work, not necessarily in a bad mood, but I'm distracted. And it takes our girls dancing around the living room and laughing or cracking jokes, however bad they are, to actually help me feel happy and cheerful and smiley or whatever, and break away from that distraction of work. To actually, rather than me going, right, I've finished work, I'm a bit too distracted, my head's completely focused on the next task. Rather than that, how do I want to feel? I'm going to feel really cheerful and happy. Hey, I'm going to go in and have a dance and tell a joke. No, I kind of live vicariously, if you like, and then I'm swept away.
Yeah.
And it's the same that if you and I are both having a difficult day, it requires you really to say, I don't want this kind of difficult day, and start talking more upbeat and being a bit more, hey, this is really good, for me to come out of mine. Fug. I can't. Fug. I can't. It's because again, I know I'm not a miserable person, and I love a giggle, and I love kind of being. I do really enjoy being cheerful, but I think if I were to look back at times where I'm really happy, it's because it's a happy occasion, and other people are feeling happy or doing something happy.
But I think again that's because the emphasis is on being happy, and sometimes, as we've already said, that's quite an elusive quality anyway. You can feel happy, as you say, vicariously, because you see other people doing something joyful or something that they're really in the moment with. But I think that's why for me it's more useful to think about engagement. So to use your example, if we're both having a bad day, I'm not necessarily thinking, oh, fuck this, I don't want to feel miserable, I want to feel happy. I'm thinking there's a dip in the energy, for example, and I want to raise that back up. I don't want to feel flat. So I would rather engage in something that pushes that energy level back up. It doesn't have to be something that makes me deliriously happy. It could be something that just tops me up a bit. But for that to happen, for me anyway, it has to be something that is generated by me. I can feel happy, watching the kids dancing around the living room, but that's kind of fleeting. It doesn't really, it's a sort of a sticking plaster. It works for a little while, but then after they've finished or they've gone to bed or whatever, it doesn't really have a lasting effect. It needs to be something that I'm really interested in, or that I really, it feels to me like, lighting up a switchboard or something in your head. It's like all the lights come on, and it's you feel that you're in the zone because it's something you're really interested in. And that's the point. It doesn't have to be something that makes you happy. It's just something you're really interested in. And
so do you find that the catalyst for that is energy? This energy feels flat, or this energy feels draining. The energy needs to change. Is that what's the first thought that you have?
I suppose so. If I feel particularly flat, or if I feel lethargic, it's a subconscious thing. But I guess that is what's happening. I'm thinking, right, raise the energy, do something about it. I mean, I've been known, usually when no one's around, to get up off the sofa and start dancing around, or sort of sing stupid songs or whatever. And it's not because, I feel compelled to do it, but it's just to do something to get me out of that kind of frame of mind and that mindset, just to get the energy levels back up. And then that usually leads to something else, and I might engage with something that's even more interesting to me. But it's important to me every day to be, I'm going to get sick of saying this word, engaged with something that's meaningful.
And you know what I do? There are times where I think I don't like how I'm feeling, or this needs to kind of change. And so I will choose to engage, but engage in something passive like reading or watching the television to escape from how I'm feeling,
or switch
off, rather than change how I'm feeling and be a bit, sorry, I'm thinking while I'm talking, be a bit, look at changing the energy. Because actually, if I'm distracted or worried or feeling anxious, then going to choose something like reading, which is engaging, unless it's a hilarious novel, which I can't remember the last time I read anything.
Maybe
hilarious.
Hilariously bad.
Yeah, that's
work?
what you think about the books I read, but screw you, I like them.
If it's not got a dragon or a witch or a warlock, it's not worth picking up.
I haven't read a fantasy novel for at least the last 10 books, so stop it.
Fair enough.
But anyway, they are all a bit depressing because I quite like it. But yeah, the choice of reading is, as you say, it's a kind of switch off escapism, kind of passive thing, which is what I said. Anyway, whereas you will look at how you're feeling and what the energy is and how you can light up those lights. And that's something I don't do. I know what makes me happy. I know I love to have a dance around. I love being able to speak to, bring him in again, my best friend John. I know that I will, if I phone him, I'll end up having a conversation where I laugh. I know that if I come to you and have a hug and tell you how I'm feeling or whatever, I'll feel better. I know these things, but I don't necessarily always choose them because I'd much rather escape than change how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I suppose so. But maybe you've just not given it that much thought. I mean, again, some of those things are still hoping to get it from someone else or something else, which is fine. I mean, obviously that's good for you. I think my perspective is to try and, I suppose another way of looking at it, as well as the energy, is you kind of know when you're in that, I suppose people call it a flow state, when things just seem to be happening quite organically and naturally, and there isn't anything impeding how you feel. And you know, not everyone has a way of achieving that, but I've tried really hard to make sure that in an average day, an average week, there's always something that gets me kind of thinking and feeling along those lines. So actually, do you think, you gave examples there, do you think that you have anything that might work for you in terms of just something that you can engage with, that can just be you on your own, that you feel passionate about, that you feel engaged with?
I don't think I've spent enough time looking at those things and exploring what those things might be. I know that I can up my energy if I stand up and have a dance around, like you said you do, or like I watch our children do. And I know I get a lot of feeling fulfilled if I do some singing. But sometimes the choice of songs that I'll sing along to aren't necessarily upbeat, but I enjoy singing them, and I feel like there's a part of me that's been explored, and so the lights come on because I've enjoyed kind of putting my headphones on and singing along to something, and yeah, that's all cool. Beyond that, I don't think I have a mood booster by going for my runs, and I love my strength training. Yeah. They boost my mood, but I don't know necessarily if there is something where if I were to say, okay, set myself the task of feeling happy or cheerful for a day, I can set the intention, but I don't necessarily have a list of tangible things that I could engage with to either kick it off or keep the momentum going. So there's my third task for myself. Oh, God. That's all I'm doing these episodes. All they do is give me things to do.
Yeah, I know. But I think for me, the benefit of being engaged with something that makes me feel that way is that it also, it's another way of being mindful. It's being in the moment, because it is really easy for anybody to run on autopilot.
Yeah.
And let's face it, most people's weeks tend to follow a certain template. They tend to be fairly standard, and then you get a few things in your week that perhaps stand out. But basically, one week is the same as the other. It's the same as the other. I think for me, what I've found, as somebody who suffers from anxiety, and I have had depression in the past, I need something that jolts me out of that reminds me that there's a bit more to life than just following the standard path. Just something that's individual to me, that makes me feel engaged, makes me feel more alive, I guess. I know I keep using the same words, but that's crucial to me. That it takes me out of my normal everyday life and gives me almost a sort of a bird's eye view on everything. It gives me a different perspective. So, you know, for you talk about singing, and that's something that works for you, or exercise. For me, it's always been listening to music, or playing music even. It gives me a completely different mindset. I know that if I'm having a really crap day, I can listen to something, and it's not that it's night and day, but it just takes me to a different place. And my feelings come more naturally to me. I was speaking to someone about this the other day, actually. It's one of the rare instances where I can't really overthink it. You know, it's just I'm there in the moment, I get swept along with the music. I have an emotional reaction to it. I cry to music quite often. I might not sort of show it particularly to even to you actually, but there are pieces of music I know that immediately make me cry with happiness in a good way. I feel emotionally swept up by it, and it feels kind of cleansing, I suppose.
Oh, I can cry with sad stuff to music. I don't think I've ever cried with happiness with music. That's quite cool.
Yeah, and I quite a long time ago found that was my thing. There are other things as well, but that is a really reliable way of me feeling connected to sort of myself and how I feel. There aren't the same barriers, there aren't the same problems or opportunities to think my way out of it. It's instant.
See, I have this thing though about the opportunity to recharge. So it's a big thing for me when I think, okay, what could I really do with? How can I get ready for the next thing that I want to tackle, or just on this path of self-enrichment, what do I need to do to help just recharge, reset, do whatever? I crave solitude. I really crave it. Like if someone were to say to me, okay, what could you do that could help you feel content or happy? I would say I want to go to, I can picture a park locally that's got an amazing lake. I'd love to go and sit on a bench, not talk to anybody, and just stare at that lake and stare at those trees and feel like I'm getting a level of contentment, recharging my batteries, and then I can come in and feel okay, because sometimes it's because I'm swept along with the negativity and the challenges of life that might prevent me from embracing happiness or finding it or feeling joy. And you'll argue with me, you'll say, Beck, you can't wait until you get that opportunity to have that couple of hours staring at a lake, or that night away from the family that you've been saying you'd like for a year or two.
It sounds great to the listeners. I crave solitude. I can't wait to get away from everybody.
But no, I'm an introvert. And if my job is dealing with people, it's working with people. So I have my job is all about being with people and talking and training and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm at home and we're a family in this environment. I don't necessarily have a commute. I don't have those times. So I have my running. There comes a point where the noise of the world and the things I'm worried about crowd out my head. So I will say, right, give me solitude first, and then maybe I can look at things that I can engage with. And you say, no, go straight to engagement and upping your energy and really, really get all those things switched on. And I find that difficult. I still feel quite strongly that I need that intermediate step of cleansing or going back to neutral before I can then move on properly. But that's how I think that's how I am. You'll argue the toss with me.
No, I appreciate that's how you are. It's just that if that doesn't get the job done because you're waiting for everything to align perfectly,
then I miss out.
Then you miss out.
Sure.
And I think my thought on that is that you can still, in an ideal world, yes, you can have those things and they would help. But I still feel even sometimes the way you will talk about it, you talk about having that solitude in order to recharge. It's still with an eye on the thing that's made you feel stressed out and the thing that you find difficult. The
cleansing thing.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's still the focus, the kind of the center piece of all of this is the thing that you're finding difficult or stressful, and you need to balance it out. Or remediate, or whatever it might be. I would see it, and I'm not saying I'm right, who the fuck knows, but the way I see it is that it's its own thing. Life is about stress and difficulty, and then you have something else, and then you go back to stress, and then you have something that makes you feel happy or engaged or whatever. It doesn't. I think if you start thinking too much about the part of my life where I feel engaged and switched on has to not only make me feel that way, but also compensate for the struggle. It maybe waters it down and makes it
I do
harder
see
to
it as a
achieve.
compensation. It's
Yeah.
like I used to store everything up before going on holiday.
Yeah.
I can't cope with it. I just need a holiday. I just need a holiday. And then it would take me 5 days.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4,
this is-
5 days to get rid of the stress and the knot in my tummy. So I had to have a 2-week holiday because the first 5 days were getting rid of the knot.
Yeah.
And then
It
the
was-
last 9 days were me able to enjoy the holiday. It's quite prescriptive.
It was a cast iron rule.
true.
Yeah, but because that's what you told yourself. But the thing is, I suppose what you were doing in a way is in a roundabout way is still trying to look after yourself, still trying to guarantee in your mind that you got to that point of feeling more relaxed or more content.
I wanted to enjoy a good week or slightly more of my holiday. But the only way I could do that was to get rid of the knot first.
Yeah.
Hence needing 2 weeks of holiday.
Nothing says contentment and happiness like rules.
I'm still doing the same thing now, aren't I?
But
With my
it's not-
whole, I want an hour or two on my own, and then I can.
The thing is though that I think a lot of the things and you know I think a lot of the things that you will think about, you will say to me, and you're very open about it. You'll say, I could do with an hour here or time there or whatever. I think all of that makes complete sense. I sometimes don't know if you know what to do with it.
I just want to sit and stare. You say you just want to switch off. Sometimes I just want to switch off.
Which is cool. But if all you ever do with that time is switch off,
Yeah, then I'm not actually achieving anything, am I?
Then you're not really engaging. And I think we all need time to ourselves, and we all need our individuality, and that's paramount. I mean, I definitely need that. I need time to myself. Otherwise, I get swept along with whatever's going on around me, and I get lost a little bit. And you're the same. But it's what you do with that time, and finding something that really you're passionate about, that makes you feel almost a stronger sense of individuality, something that can sustain you through the periods of time when you feel crowded out or when things are stressful. You retain that really robust sense of who you are, because you're managing to kind of cultivate things that keep reinforcing it.
I do. I need to sing more. In fact, I've been saying for a long time, I need to, using the software that we're doing the podcast with, I need to do it for recording songs like I used to. I think that's a big thing. I like this. I'm going to keep in my mind your thing about having something tangible to engage with that sets off lights in your head, that is one cast iron route to feeling a level of joy or happiness or whatever the phrase is, word is, sorry, because I still feel like happiness is a bit
wishy-washy and
a bit wishy-washy.
a bit annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't dismiss how happy the laughter that I can get from being with others when they're feeling cheerful, but I do find that I'm wanting to more and more set an intention to feel cheerful, whereas before, and I've had years go by where I will wake up in the morning and I will just roll my sleeves up to deal with the to-do list and the task of the day.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, it's been a good day if that task list has been completed.
Yeah.
And if I've had some positive feedback from a client, for example, or a nice conversation with a friend on the phone or a family member, and that's a good job done for that day. And then I look back at those days and I'm like, wow, I didn't really achieve much. I achieved fuckloads because there was a task list and I had a good conversation.
Yeah.
But it's all about productivity.
Yeah.
Whereas now I try my best to remind myself, because there are days I forget, wake up, when I'm on my run, what do I want from today? And if I want to feel cheerful, what can I do to help me feel cheerful?
But again, I think, and not to keep harping on about it, but it isn't, to me anyway, it's not just about feeling cheerful. I think that it's super important to have some outlet for your feelings, whatever that, even if it's feeling sad. It's really easy and this is for goes for anybody, to go through your standard week, your standard day, where you're being productive, you're trying to achieve things, you're ticking boxes. But where do your feelings go? You know, you will be having feelings that come up regularly during the day, and you have no outlet for them, because your day, especially for busy people with families, there's no real way of getting rid of any of that stuff or just experiencing it. So I think whether it's exercise or listening to music like me, or having hobbies, or meeting up with friends, or having some kind of an interest, a central interest in your life that allows some of that stuff to come out of you as a sort of a conduit for some of those feelings, is really important. It's not healthy to block those things up and to keep them away, because they get kind of in the way of productivity or ticking boxes. That, you know, it's easy to think that might make one more efficient, but it's very one-dimensional.
It's reframing priorities, isn't it? Like, do I really want to go through life where the priorities are all work and task-led?
Yeah.
And because don't I as an individual get lost with that? I end up just that whole human being, that I end up just being defined by my output.
Yes.
Rather than really appreciating who I am, what I enjoy, and what I have to offer the world.
And you deserve for your kind of self-esteem, your self-worth, to be built on more than just output or what you achieve or how you're perceived by other people or whatever it might be. And I know we all do that, but really it's built on quite flimsy ground if that's all you're building it on. You know, you don't have to be, when I talk about individuality, as I've sort of mentioned before, I don't mean that you have to stand out or you have to be particularly unique or whatever it might be, but whatever works for you, whatever makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Whatever makes you feel complete. It's important to keep cultivating that and keep that going. Otherwise, your life does become a bit limited. You know, mine has felt like that at points because I've been too focused on the task at hand or the thing I really want to achieve. You know, my issue, one of my issues, is that I can be too over-focused on something. You know, achieving one particular thing, or you know, it can be something as stupid as, I suppose, researching something, trying to find out about a particular thing.
Yeah. And
I will keep going, and I'll be so tunnel visioned with that particular thing that the rest of my kind of life feels as if it recedes or fades into the background a bit. And unless I kind of come back from that by bringing in things that I feel passionate about or engaged with, it's easy for me as an individual to keep going with that and to almost get a bit obsessed with following a particular track. So it's my balance. It's I need every day, without making it a thing, I need to listen to music. I need to laugh at some stupid video on YouTube that I might find. It's important to me.
And it is quite impressive how much you can struggle with anxiety.
It is really impressive indeed. My capacity to struggle.
I could stop there, you're right. I could stop there.
The end.
With a big fat full stop, but I'm not going to. It's impressive that you have that and yet are so ridiculously optimistic and are able to say, I don't know, yeah, but look at it this way and look at it that way, and keep that energy, that vibe going that can sometimes carry the whole household. On a day where you are really struggling, you somehow still manage to keep the household quite buoyant. And that seriously is impressive. And is that down to, do you think that's down to you having this level of engagement in things that you're happy, that kind of fulfill you and make you feel you? Do you think that's part of this, like a really strong contributor?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that's certainly true. I mean, I think one of the reasons I'm optimistic is because I will keep cultivating those things that make me feel engaged, and they make me realize that the world is bigger than just me in my head. You know, it's really easy to just think, I'm struggling, I'm really stressed out, and that's the be-all and end-all. And there isn't anything outside of that. But if I keep reminding myself that there are things out, you know, it isn't just about my stress. I can also access those feelings of joy or be swept up by something that I really feel passionate about. And it takes me it gives me that fresh perspective, and I do my best to keep reinforcing that. And I think it's a similar thing to when I was a kid. You know, I grew up in the 80s in Iraq when there was it was incredibly tumultuous and difficult, and there was always stress. There was always stuff going on that as a sensitive child I had to process or had to do my best to deal with. And I think my solution to that, unwittingly, was to keep maintaining my interest in the outside world. So for me at that point, it wasn't music. I was a really, really cool kid. I loved my encyclopedias. I loved reading about, I love my facts. As I think I've said before, me and my maps and my geography, whatever it might have been. But I found that really learning new things, tuning into that, opened up my mind to the fact that where I was at that particular moment was just an ephemeral thing. It wasn't going to last. There was this huge world out there, new experiences, new feelings, whatever it might have been. And although, I was experiencing that in a very sort of limited way, it opened up that part of my mind. I don't know how I would have coped without it. Knowing that the world was such an interesting place and there are all these possibilities, and having access to those encyclopedias and books.
Bigger than what you were currently experiencing.
Yeah, that my world wasn't all going to be defined by that moment in time.
Yeah.
It could be bigger, it could be something else. And I think I've probably just, again, not on purpose, but I suppose I do my best to replicate that, to remind myself that whatever I'm going through now isn't the be-all and end-all. It won't last forever.
Yeah. I think it's a really good point. You've given me a lot of food for thought, Mazin. Yes, you have.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
And the thing, I don't know whether or not when we're talking about things like this, if I come across as someone who just constantly struggles and feels grumpy.
But I was just thinking, do I come across as someone who has all the answers? Because I fucking don't. Good God.
You do. In comparison to what I've got going on in my head, I feel very, I don't know, I'm being unfair here, stereotypically British, that kind of roll your sleeves up, focus on the task at hand, show that you've got resilience, achieve a certain textbook life. You're doing really well if you can say you've got ABC, and if you're feeling low or vulnerable, keep it to yourself. Share it with a couple of people so that you can bond over that level of negativity, but then don't overshare. There's a kind of all these different rules and things.
Limitations,
and aim for happiness, and you'll only ever be happy if you win the lottery and you've got loads of money. So let's fantasize about the dream world we'll have. Yeah. And if we live in a fantasy world, then that can keep you happy enough until that's it. I kind of feel like I've fulfilled that limited potential that might have been set for me as a just out of stereotype rather than necessarily my parents setting it, if you like. But
you're a product of your environment, and so the good thing is that you're not just sitting there and accepting it. It's a given. It has to play out that way. Yeah. But who cares when it happened? It still happened.
It's true.
The point is you're at a stage now where you kind of want a bit more out of life, and you don't feel the need to keep following that path forever. You can have more in your life, and that might still form the basis of sort of the way you see things and the way you see the world. But it isn't the defining characteristic. And I think it's a strength to be able to go, do you know what? This is the way things are. This is the way I was brought up. The environment. I don't necessarily need to retain all parts of it.
I want more, or I want different.
And going on what you were saying, I think that's an important point as well. You're almost told. A lot of people are told, when people talk about dreaming, it's always about something either intangible or something unattainable, like winning the lottery. Yeah. Like, I'm going to be the next pop star, even though I've got no talent, or whatever it might be. It's always that's the dreaming that a lot of us are encouraged to participate in, rather than something that's achievable, that's personal to us. We don't have to all share the same dreams, but we all have something within us that we would like to aim for, that would enrich our lives and make things make things better.
I can't conclude any better than that. I think that... Well done.
Waffle.
Drop the mic. I like this fundamental thing about having the focus on engaging with something that really puts that fire in our belly.
Yeah.
And helps us to really focus on the things that really matter to us to get the most out of life. So I'm sure I'll speak for both of us when I say we're intrigued to know what you, dear listener, what you find is your thing that you either do currently that you engage with or that you might identify now, having listened to this, as something that you might engage with in the future. I think there are a couple of things that are coming to my mind. Singing is definitely going to have to be one of them. Recording it, but also choosing songs that are a bit more upbeat than just this sad, lonely ballad.
Well, I don't know. If you're particularly engaged with depressing shit, then just keep singing it.
Well, okay, yeah, that too. That's true, actually, because it wasn't about feeling happy necessarily. It was getting engaged in lighting those lights
stuff
up.
out.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, tell us in whichever means you've managed to find us on Facebook or Twitter, and be really interesting to hear. Maybe get a conversation going and spark kind of other ideas, because I'd love to have other ideas about what I could do for engaging.
Oh, me too.
But thank you, as always, if you're still listening, for still listening. And if you have already subscribed and given us a review, thank you so much. If you haven't, it would be appreciated. That's all we can say. We would bloody love for you to subscribe and be part of our family.
Yes, indeed.
And do a review, because we'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah.
But otherwise, look out for the next episode and take care of yourself.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.